I got up this morning and I thought, right, I'm going to make this video, pull apart some impact drivers. But then I saw that a prominent YouTuber had already done it, or at least so I thought. So I watched the first 30 seconds and unfortunately he pulled apart the 171, which is a couple of years old. I mean, come on, he could have done one of these too. Anyway, so now I'm still going to have to pull the 172 apart because I want to know if Makita have continued with the fuse that they have put in these other Japanese impact drivers, and whether this motor is smaller. I haven't done a good measurement here, but this just looks narrower. So whether they have changed the mold enough that they have managed to fit a smaller mold around the same size motor as the 171, or whether they've managed to get the same amount of power as the 171 out of a smaller motor. One of the things Makita does is efficiency. That's one of the things they work good at, and they keep trying to make every little thing better and better, smaller and more powerful and more confined and just nicer, rather than just full-on power. So hopefully we'll just make a quick little video and we'll just see if this has got a fuse in it, eh? We'll open them all up, have a quick little look inside for those who haven't seen them. I have actually pulled the 171 and the 40 volt apart before, and if you want to see these tools compared, it was in my video last week. Take a look at that, it'll be on the screen somewhere down in the description, blah blah blah. So today we're just going to quickly pull this apart. Hopefully I'll try and keep this video under 8 minutes. I think that every week, and then I struggle to keep it under 30 minutes. Anyway, let's go. Pull them apart. 3, 2, 1, bam, bam, bam. Thankfully I had another Makita Impact Driver to take them all apart. So straight away I can see it has a fuse. It is a 40 volt blade style automotive fuse. If you want to see these tools ripped down, probably pay to go watch the video of that other guy. I haven't actually watched it all, only watched the beginning and saw that it was a 171 and then didn't bother after that. But presumably he pulls this all apart and will explain it all a bit better than what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to give you some basics and show you the differences between some of these. The 40 volt here, I have already replaced the fuse, which if you haven't already seen the video for that, have a look up here somewhere. Maybe I'll put a little bit of it on the screen. Can I fit it on here? Will it fit down in this corner? Let's see. You'll know before I do. Maybe? No. No, that can't work, right? Anyway, you can see there is a fuse. It is a 30 amp automotive fuse. It is much smaller than the others. This is a mini one as opposed to the big one here. I'm not sure why they needed to do the large one. That is a 40 amp. This is a 30 amp. I don't think they make these small ones in 40 amp, so I'm not sure why they need a 40 amp in the 18 and only a 30 in the 40 volt. Maybe it's due to the fact that they've got to suck a lot more power out to get things done with this compared to this. It's a bit more efficient, being that it's a higher voltage. Doesn't have to work so hard. One moment. Right, what were we talking about before the phone rang? Oh yeah. So the fuse, I've already replaced this one. I blew it while I was trying to make an adapter for this. I was trying to modify the adapter because that's what people wanted to see. I knew it wouldn't work, but I also didn't think it was going to fry the fuse. So I've never fried the one on the 171, but I fried this one within a couple of weeks of owning it, sort of thing. The 40 volt chargers and kits come with an adapter that charges your 18 volt batteries on your 40 volt charger, and people were interested to see if you could modify that a bit. See if you could use a tool with an 18 volt battery or a 18 volt one with a 40 volt battery, that sort of thing. So I had to make a couple of little modifications to that adapter. I slid it on the tool. I chucked an 18 volt battery on the adapter and bang, smoky smoke time, and the fuse shut itself also. So that's why that's been replaced. Now these fuses aren't just staked on, they're actually soldered on. So it's a little bit of a hassle when you have to change it, but not the end of the world, as I have discovered. Right, let's have a look at what is the same and what is different with these. Like my last video, I will call this the 171, this the 172, and this the 40 volt. As I suspected and mentioned in the previous video, the 40 volt and the 172 both have the same switch. It's a very nice switch. It's an improvement over the 171. You can see the 171 has a sort of silicon protector around the switch. Maybe it's a vibration thing, I'm not sure, but they obviously thought they didn't need it on the 172 and the 40 volt. There's one really obvious difference at the top there, which I'll get to in a moment. The 40 volt you can see has much more in the way of heat sinking around the board on the bottom here. If we look at the 171 and 172 boards, the 171 board is much wider That's why we've got this narrowing at the base. The 172 overall looks like a smaller tool. Weight wise though, it's only 10 grams in it, as we saw in the last video, so not much savings in that department. If I have a look here, I can see there's 4 wires going into the switch here, where we've got 5 on the 172 in this new switch. The motors on all 3 of them appear at first glance to all be the same diameter, with these 2 motors looking basically identical. The 40 volt you can see has a bigger fan on the back. I've just measured all 3 and each one is only 11 millimeters. 11 millimeters of laminations there. These motors are just amazing what they can do these days. The main difference I'm seeing here is the 172 and the 40 volt look to have essentially the same gearbox system. Same size, it's all the same shape, moulding's all in the same place pretty much. They've just painted it a different colour. This one's silver, this one's sort of a dark silver. Whereas the 172, maybe this is where they have made the savings in the space. This gearbox is very different in shape and design to the 171 and the 40 volt. So will we see this gearbox in this tool in the future? And is this the reason why this one seems to be running hotter than these two? Have they just cut down a little bit too much on the aluminium? Have they pushed the boundaries a little bit too far? Is this tool going to overheat more than these two? I will test that out in a future video. We'll run a heap of screws or something with each one and we'll test some temperatures just to see if it really is as different as I think it is, or whether I'm just bloody worrying about nothing. Having a slightly closer look at the motors here, they are different in at least the configuration of the board here. Big gap here for starters. This one says 25 degree, this says 30 degree. We've got the same amount of wires going in. We have a little bit more going on the side here. Everything's written in Japanese, so I don't know what the hell it all means. Have I passed the point of no return on getting this back together? So as you can see, let's just zoom in a bit. The gearbox area is different in the way that it's put together. It's roughly the same length, it's just fractionally shorter. They both actually measured at 76 millimeters from this point to the end of the collet on each one. Now without tapping this or whacking on it, doing absolutely nothing, it has just popped open by itself, so that's odd. Normally you've got to belt the hell out of these things to get them open. If you want to know how an impact driver works, have a look up in the top corner there. I did do a video on that. Have a look in the description. It'll be somewhere around if I remember to do it. But basically this hammer here loads up on the spring, hits this anvil there, then it pops up over it, spins again and gives it another whack, and then whack, 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 whack. Does that thousands of times every minute, and that's what makes the impacts. Pretty simple. This is very light, very thin aluminium. I think they've chopped out a lot of aluminium compared to these other 2 models. If you do decide to take apart your impact driver, just be very careful. Don't stick a screwdriver in there and hit it with a hammer to try and prise this open, because that aluminium is awfully thin and you will crack it. I should have watched that other video that other guy did so I could see how he got this apart. I'll go check this in the vise. I shouldn't be even pulling this apart. This wasn't what I was going to do. So it appears this one has a thread in it as opposed to this one, which just pops in and is held in place with, well, nothing. This one has a thread and mine does not want to undo. Probably because some idiot hit it just here with a screwdriver. Anyway, let's weigh these things. Now I wanted to see if these had different planetary gears, seen as this area here is different. But maybe they've just eliminated the thread area, and that's why this one seems a bit smaller, and seeing as it doesn't have the thread. Because I think they still both just have the one row. You can see them on this one. The gears are all in here. Maybe they're a bit thinner than they are on this model, but I'm not going to bash away at this and try and get it open for risk of making it permanently unbloody usable. Anyway, the 171. There we have it, 415 grams. Should tilt it so you can see it, eh? So none of you accuse me of rigging this thing like people seem to do. So if you can see that, we are on 415 grams, and the new 172, wow, it's a savings of 5 grams. So they are essentially the same still. So what have they changed? Because if you look at them next to each other, quite a big difference in the girth at this point. And with the fancy glow-in-the-dark rings removed, you can see that the one on the left, the 171, looks much bigger than the one on the right, the 172. So at this point here, we're looking at 41mm on the 172 and 44 on this one. Why did they go to the effort of changing these? Leave your theories down in the comments below. I've just measured the collets, and the 172 is about just over 20mm and this one is 18mm. This area seems to be the biggest difference. Why they needed to change that, I'm not 100% sure, seeing as all the stats on this are the same. As you will have seen in the last video, they perform the same and all the numbers are the same, everything's the same. So why have they bothered to shrink this part down and make this a little bit smaller? And is that going to be a problem in the future? Is this going to hack it? Is it going to get too hot? Is it going to matter if this area gets too hot? They have changed the chuck, as I think I pointed out in the last video also. This one has a bit more meat on it. A little hard to see there, but it's a bit more in line with 40 volt. Makita are always just doing these fine little improvements, just making it better, tweaking it each time. There's not a huge jump between the tools each time, but if you've got one of the lower ones and you move up, there's a big jump of course. But they're always just refining it and making it a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. So that when you do go out to buy an impact driver, if you go out and buy the best one, you will be getting the best thing at the time. They don't wait for a huge range of improvements, it's just always updating the top one so that when you go out to buy one, you're always getting the best. But if you do buy one of these top-end ones, you don't need to replace it every time another top-end one comes along because, as I say, just tiny little differences. Okay, I think I better stop this. This is starting to get out of hand. One thing I do like about all these Makita impact drivers, they all use the same screws. All the same screws, all the same length. Unlike some tool companies where every screw's different lengths, you can't find which ones fit where, it's a pain in the ass. All the same, very handy. So thanks for watching guys. I've got a little bit of work to do now putting these all back together. And boy oh boy, there's some going on in that one. Oh, and something interesting in here. If you want to see full reviews of all of these impact drivers here, these Makita ones, and that one, have a look up in the thing, and down there. And I will see you on another one real soon. And it'll probably be a Makita one too. But you never know, who knows what might happen. The next video might be me crying because I've got a bench full of destroyed impact drivers. Cheers.